Hello to everybody at Hammers Poll on YouTube. My name's Ben Ambrose and I am of Norwich Talk, a Norwich City fan-led YouTube channel. Now, I've been asked by Ian of your channel to come and provide a bit of a preview ahead of our game on Saturday from a Norwich City perspective, which I think will be an interesting one. Now, from a brief overview of the game that is to be, I think it'll be an interesting one. If I was a West Ham fan, I'd certainly be licking my lips at the prospect of playing Norwich in this game, to be honest with you, because if you look at the facts, we are bottom of the table by quite some distance, and I think this game, this game will definitely mean more to you in terms of league status in regards to the fact that Norwich are essentially down already. I believe we could already be down by the weekend mathematically, which probably could be a bit of a weight off our players' shoulders. But yeah, I think West Ham will win this game. I think that's the first thing I will say. I think you guys will definitely win this game. I mean, on paper, you definitely have a better squad. We obviously met back in August or September, whatever it was, and you beat us 2-0 quite comfortably. I remember us having one chance in that game, and then we lost one of our centre-backs, and it just was not a pleasant game to watch from a Norwich City perspective. I've been asked to give a lineup or a predicted lineup for this video. Now, my natural assumption is that it will be a very similar one to which we put out against Watford. I'm not sure if any of you saw that game, but Norwich looked okay. That's probably our strongest team on paper, or one of our stronger teams on paper. There's been a bit of a debate between fans and the management in terms of the starting lineups that he's been putting out. There's been a question of his ambition to even stay in the league. However, we put out a fairly strong one against Watford by our own standards. In terms of that lineup, I think players you should be looking out for / worrying about include the likes of Emi Buendia, Mario Vrancic, two very creative players for Norwich City. I imagine you've probably heard of Emi Buendia because I think he's created the 5th most chances in the Premier League this season. Now, if we had a striker who finished all of them chances, who knows where we'd actually be in the league? That's an interesting discussion to have. Also, a player like Mario Vrancic, very creative in the midfield. Now, I think this game will be won in the midfield because from a West Ham perspective, if I was a West Ham fan, I'd want us to play very high up the pitch. I think David Moyes will instruct your team to play high up the pitch, because if you press Norwich, we essentially can't deal with it because we don't have the quality in this league to deal with a high press. If you look at the Championship last season, when teams pressed us, we just play around them because their players weren't as good as ours. However, when you come up to the Premier League, there's obviously a gulfing difference between the two leagues, and Norwich City didn't really recruit any additional players to challenge to stay in the Premier League. Or when I say didn't recruit any, we didn't recruit enough, and the players we did recruit weren't particularly brilliant for us. So yeah, I think the game will be won in the midfield. Now, I look at your team, you've got players like, I think it's Tomas Soucek, something like that, and Declan Rice, two very, very good holding midfielders. I think I watched your game against Chelsea, of which they were very impressive in. Obviously, you turned that game around, which, I mean, spirits should be high, and I am feeling this before your game against Burnley. So if you go and win that game, then I can't see any other result than a West Ham win. Now, in terms of players of yours that I fear, I've obviously mentioned Declan Rice and Soucek. I also fear Mikel Antonio. He loves to score against Norwich. I've obviously seen him against Norwich for West Ham, and also for it was Forest, wasn't it? And also Lucas Fabianski is a player that I fear because I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper. Now, goalkeepers are probably a bit tougher to judge from the outside because I don't see him week in, week out. However, from my perspective, Fabianski is a pretty good goalkeeper. I mean, Norwich are low on confidence enough as it is already, so I shouldn't imagine we'll test him too much. But yeah, they're my thoughts on the game, to be honest with you. I do see a West Ham win. However, with this pressure off Norwich City's shoulders in regards to league status, and the fact that I think everybody around the club now has accepted we've gone down, I think there'll be a sense of urgency to go for it. Maybe we'll see the introduction of a few youth players. You might have heard of Adam Eder. We've also got another young prospect called Josh Martin, who's a winger. Now, I've said on my own channel that once relegation was confirmed, or all but confirmed, which it essentially is now, we might see the introduction of youth players, as you so often do when a team's season's over, which, that could go one way or the other for you guys. We could either play them and they'd be really good, or they could be really poor and you go and score 4 or 5 goals. But yeah, I think your players will definitely be excited at the prospect of playing against ours. I don't really think Norwich are brilliant at defending. You see our fullbacks and centre-back Ben Godfrey linked with multi-million-pound moves. It came out this morning that Norwich are going to ask for £50 million for Ben Godfrey, but I don't really think them players are worth it, which I think is interesting because from the outside, all other people see are just these young English prospects coming through And obviously, when a player is young and English, that inflates their market value by millions, which is, it could be good for Norwich if someone wants to pay that much. However, I really do think that if you get up in their faces, they lose the battle because they're not there yet. I have no doubts in my mind that they'll turn it around and they'll be good for Norwich or good for a Premier League team, but they're just not there yet this season. This season will be a massive learning curve. But yeah, I was quite surprised to see West Ham where you guys were, or where you guys are in the league, sorry, because you've got a very capable squad. You've got the likes of Felipe Anderson as well. I think he was £40 million for you guys, which made me think that maybe you'd contend for top half, maybe even push for Europe. I think that was the initial plan, wasn't it? And then obviously you guys appointed David Moyes, which was really weird because I don't think he did a brilliant job the last time he was with you. And also he's really just got a very tarnished reputation in the Premier League, which is a shame for him because he did so well at Everton, and then he's just undone everything he did, although he seems to be doing it back up. Who knows how that will go for you next season? I compare the appointment to Nigel Pearson of Watford in terms of the fact that I didn't really see it as succession planning. I saw it as stopping the rot. I've no idea if he'll be here in 18 months or be at West Ham in 18 months. I think that's a very interesting subject to look at and dissect on a West Ham, from a West Ham point of view, that is, sorry. But yeah, they're my thoughts. I think my general conclusion ahead of the game is that West Ham will probably win. I'll be satisfied with a better performance from Norwich. Obviously, if this game was being played at Carrow Road with a crowd, I think we would have won this game, to be honest with you. I think we would have won a few more of our games since the restart of football with a crowd. I remember going into the restart of football, we knew how, from this point in the season, we knew how important the crowd would be, and obviously we didn't have it. You look at games like Everton at home, we had Southampton as well, Brighton as well, as a matter of fact. All of them games we'd labelled as winnable, this game included. But if you look at Norwich City as a whole, from the restart, we've just not been good enough. And now I haven't actually watched you guys week in, week out since the restart. I saw the Chelsea game and you were pretty good. There was a lot of resilience there. There was a lot of heart and fight. But yeah, another player quickly that I've somehow just forgotten to mention is Jared Bowen. I think he was linked with Norwich, in the January transfer window, but that signing was never going to happen, was it? He's been really good since coming to the Premier League, which is a good signing for you. He's a good young English prospect, and it's good to see a young English prospect actually flourish when he goes to a bigger team than what he was at. Because sometimes I think the enormity of the situation and the pressure of it can maybe crush the player's confidence, and maybe they go one way or they will go one way or the other. We saw it with Norwich before, with the likes of Josh Murphy and Jacob Murphy. We had these good young English prospects, good wingers. You're probably familiar with Josh Murphy because I think he played in the Premier League last season, and they haven't really been brilliant since leaving Norwich. But yeah, they're my thoughts. If you want to find me, you can go find me over on Norwich Talk on YouTube, at BenAmbrose23 on Twitter. Big thanks to Ian for having me on the channel, and best of luck for the game, but hopefully not too much luck that you win.
Hi everyone, it's Jazz previewing the upcoming Saturday clash at the bottom of the table between the Canaries and the Mighty Irons. So if we start off with the history between the clubs, I think we've got a good record against Norwich, certainly since I've been following West Ham. The last 5 games I think we're unbeaten, and the last defeat we have to go back to 2013, a 3-1 defeat, and Ravel Morrison, remember that name? So he scored for us, so that's how far we have to go back. Form-wise, Norwich have lost their previous 7 games, which has included 4 losses at home. So after all the hard games we've had since Christmas, and it's been a long run, we're finally playing a team that we really should be winning. Not even thinking about a draw, really. I know there's not really any game that's really easy in this league, but this one, in terms of what Norwich, how they're playing, the form, we really should get this one over the line, really. In terms of players to look out for, Cantwell is one that comes to mind. He's a great player for them, and one with a great future. And I've mentioned on other channels and videos that I would go as far forward to say that I would have him as one of my primary transfer targets in the summer to replace Lanzini or Fornells. So he would play in a 4-2-3-1, and it's the 3 behind Haller or any other striker we're going to have. So you could have Antonio, Bowen and Cantwell behind Haller. So that's how highly I rate him. The other players, obviously Pukki, but the thing with Pukki is he's 31 years sort of old, and he's been blowing sort of hot and cold, and certainly been off form since Christmas. I think he's only got the odd goal. I think he's not even starting a lot of the times. He comes off the bench. That's how far his form has gone down. In terms of formation, it's 4-2-3-1, exactly like we do, so we'll be matching exactly like them. So Cantwell's up and down. I think he's been injured. Like I said, he missed the last game, so hopefully for us he doesn't play. Maybe they're keeping him fresh. You're not sure. He's very crucial to them, and it's crucial for us. Certainly, shown by today's game against Burnley, is that we certainly need a recognised striker up front. Haller's got to start. We can't carry on playing Antonio in that position because, okay, I'll do it for the odd game here and there, but longer term you need that striker's instinct, shown by Antonio's glaring miss today. You need a striker to get in there, flick it on, put those chances away really. Antonio goes back and replaces Fornals, who again didn't really make much of an impact today. The other concerning area for us is the full-back area. For a long time I've been saying that Creswell, apart from the Bilic season, has been very average. He's not the modern fullback with the engine, the stamina, the power, the pace. He's very lethargic, very slow. Doesn't like to sort of come up against speedy wingers. People like Traore have put him in their back pocket and ripped him for pace. He doesn't even do anything from set pieces anymore, really. So I think the quicker we replace him, the better. Hopefully in the summer. Fredericks, full of pace, which you need in a modern game, but hasn't got much between the ears. I don't think he's good at reading the game. And again, today's goal is a combination of Creswell and Fredericks. Fredericks not closing down their winger, and then Creswell kind of going missing in terms of putting pressure on his striker to miss or maybe even intervene really. So those are the kind of players that David Moyes can't do anything about. He's inherited this lopsided squad full of sort of slow un-premiership quality players and too many number 10s really. Souček and Bowen, who he had a reasonable sort of input in bringing in, have been the difference. Souček, every game he's just going up another level. He reminds me of Lampard, and even he's like even David Moyes is sort of Fellaini really, which is a great sort of thing to think about. That he could be David Moyes is Fellaini, all arms and legs, and puts his leg in, is a nuisance. And even today's game, I think he had 3-4 chances purely because of sort of reading the game and getting in there, even ahead of sort of people like Antonio who do not have that striker's instinct really. So that's the good things, I think, and hopefully get the full-back area organised and sorted and get the good player to replace Fornals, and we'll have a half-decent team, I think. And whether Haller stays or not, I don't know, but we really need Haller or another good striker certainly behind him to replace a Jetty. So you need two strikers. You can't play with one, really. So those are the key areas that we can improve on going forward. But certainly I think we've got enough to get over the line in this game. Both defences are bad. I think we've conceded 59 goals. I think they've conceded 63. So you've got the worst defence against the joint third worst defence. So I believe a 4-2 win for us, I think. We should be able to get this one over the line. We've certainly got more quality than them, even though there's some areas of concern in our team, which hopefully we'll address in the summer. So 4-2 to us, and that will more or less mean Norwich are relegated. And we'll have a hopefully 3-4 point minimum lead over the Watford or Bournemouth or Villa with a better goal difference. So we're edging there. Certainly we don't want to be going to the Villa game needing to get anything out of it. So hopefully we get the results we need really. So 4-2 win to us. So come on you Irons.
For West Ham fans everywhere, this is the ultimate football app for you. Never miss a thing with the latest West Ham news, gossip and social stories as they break. Download the free COY Irons app now from the App Store and Google Play.